What's going on, guys? Welcome to a new video. So today then it's going to be pretty much an introduction into Facebook ads for 2019. If you're a beginner, then this is the video you're going to want to watch, because I'm going to take you through the whole process, pretty much every single option, drop down menu that you have the availability to, and pretty much just explain what it does and in kind of what terms you would use it. So ultimately then, if you're new to Facebook ads and you're not quite sure, or you're feeling a bit overwhelmed about what to do or what ad sets are or how to create an ad, then this video is going to explain all those things and hopefully everything else as well. So ultimately then give you guys an idea of where you need to be, where you need to start, and ultimately then what kind of process you need to go through and how to go through that process, and ultimately pretty much understand Facebook ads as a whole and how it applies to many different businesses, because obviously not all of us are on Shopify, not all of us are selling the same kind of product. So some of us are going to be using traffic campaigns, some of us are going to be using purchases, some of us are going to be using engagement ads. So that's kind of the gist of this video then. I'm just going to take you through pretty much absolutely every single thing and possibility that you have available to you on Facebook and explain what it does. So that being said, then that's the topic. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy it, and let's get straight into it. What's going on then, guys? Welcome to my computer. So let's start from the very beginning, in fact, and let's click create campaign. Now, obviously there's going to be quite a lot to get through, so I think today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the whole ad creation process from start to finish and all the different options and variants you have available along the way. And then if you want me to branch out and do, say, different other segments, say like a video just on audience insights or a video just on custom audiences or whatever it is, then make sure you just let me know down in the comment section below, and then I can do a video on that. We can make it into a bit of a series if you like. So let's start the process then from the very beginning. Let's click create campaign. And if you've began creating campaigns already, you'll get this little pop-up which basically says, do you want to continue from where you left off? But we don't. We want to start over from the very beginning. So just a quick intro then to this screen. If we look over on the left, it kind of breaks down how ads are set up. So ultimately then we have a campaign and we choose the objective or the marketing objective of that particular campaign. And then within the campaign, we have different ad sets, and within on the ad set level, then that is where we change the different targeting options. So gender, location, we can change the individual budgets of certain ad sets. And then under our ad set, so it's kind of like a tree, and you start at the top with the campaign, underneath that is your ad sets, and then underneath that is your ads. So basically you can have many ads, or what I like to refer to then as ad copy. So this is actually what your ad looks like. So the image, the video, the text, and you can have as many of those ads then, as many ad copies under as many ad sets if you like, and then you can have as many ad sets under campaigns as you like as well. So it kind of works that way. At the top, campaign, then your ad sets, then your actual ads or ad copy. So this is the screen then. As you see on the left, it kind of breaks it down and shows you what I just mentioned, and it pretty much shows you what you're going to be working through and all the different things you have to pretty much import and choose before you can make your ad go live. So two options at the top then: we can create a brand new one or we can use an existing one. If, for example, you want to start selling a different product and that you've already got a campaign that's running really well, then you can just use an existing campaign to base on to keep everything pretty much the same. So marketing objective wise then, so this is where there's quite a lot of confusion with Facebook ads. So I'm just going to run through kind of like the main ones that we talk about on this channel. That's going to apply to everybody then that's out there selling a physical product using Shopify and typically drop shipping as well. But ultimately the actual business model doesn't really make that much difference. If you're selling a physical product, then whether you're drop shipping it or fulfilling it in-house, or you got a fulfillment center, whatever it is, then essentially your objectives are going to be the same. So moving on to the marketing objectives then, we've got two options straight off the bat, which is auction and we have reach and frequency. So if you don't already know, then Facebook is a bidding platform, and what I mean by that is essentially it's like eBay in the fact that when you look for a certain product on eBay, then there's multiple people that want to buy that one product on eBay, and people bid against each other. But instead of it being a product, then it's essentially a customer or an impression on a certain person, and different people are competing for that certain impression on that person. So essentially, if there's 10 people trying to advertise to the same audience for you, then you're going to be bidding against those people. And then you've got reach and frequency, which if it says here, by the way, as we go through this video, if you're not sure on anything, then simply go to your own ad manager account. And there's usually a little I button here that you can hover over and it explains what it does. But I'm going to try and explain how it's relevant to what we're doing, so Shopify dropshipping wise. And then reach and frequency, what this lets you do is pay a fixed price. So you can say you want to pay X amount for, I don't know, X amount of impressions or X amount of views or X amount of purchases, whatever it is. And then Facebook's going to try and work against that. But like I mentioned, it's a bidding platform. If you don't put enough money in, then essentially Facebook just aren't going to deliver your ads. So as a beginner then, I recommend always sticking with auction, because I'm a big believer of, if you want to be successful at this, then you're going to be in it for the long run. And to be in it for the long run and be successful for a long time, you've got to grasp and get a really good understanding of how Facebook ads work. So essentially, you want to try and take on as much as possible, learn as much as possible, because the deeper understanding you have of Facebook ads and how they work, then the more successful you're going to be in the long run, and the better skill you're going to essentially develop. And regardless of whether you decide to pursue e-commerce or dropshipping, whatever it is, if you master Facebook ads, you will get a job pretty much for any company in the world. If you're good at Facebook ads and you can bring somebody in more money than what they're paying for that ads plus what they're paying for you. So basically, if you can make somebody a profit from Facebook ads, then everybody in the world is going to want you to work for them, because you're going to be making the money essentially. So what I'm trying to say then, to cut it short, is just try and learn as much as possible and try and grasp a really deep understanding of how it works. So auction wise then, we've got all these different options here, and I'm going to start with conversions, probably because most people watching this then are going to want conversions, and ultimately that's what our ultimate goal is going to be. We're going to want purchases. So conversion wise then, there's different events within the conversion kind of process. So obviously it starts with view content, then it's add to cart, initiate checkout, add payment info, and then finally purchase. So if you want to go for one of those things, then you're going to want to choose this conversion option. You have catalog sales. So if you've linked your Shopify store with Facebook, you can create catalogs. And ultimately you can advertise a catalog to someone, so rather than one specific product. So if you've created a niche store, for example, then that might be a good option, something to experiment with, because the potential audience you're going to be advertising to might be interested in more than one product that you have to offer. And then store visits then, this is for actually getting people to visit your physical store. Consideration wise then, we have traffic. This is for driving people off of Facebook essentially to, say, a product page or your homepage, whatever it is. Engagement, self-explanatory, is for building up engagements on your ad and your actual Facebook page that you choose to advertise from. So that can be likes, comments, shares. App installs, again, self-explanatory. Video views, self-explanatory. Lead generation then, so if you're trying to build an email list, for example, then this is the route you want to go. Messages, this is to actually get people to send messages to you. So if you want to build up like a bot messenger list, then this is a good option to do. And by the way, these are definitely undervalued at the moment, because if you look at the conversion rates or the open rates then of, say, a Facebook message versus an email, then it's something, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but it's a lot higher, like 5-6 times higher rate. So definitely something that I'm probably going to be doing more videos on in the future. Awareness then, this is to pretty much put your brand in front of people who are more likely to be so people who like similar other brands basically. Then we have reach, which is basically just to show your ad to as many people as possible, so you can choose certain locations, whatever it is. So basically they're all the different marketing objectives that you have available to you, and the ones I want to focus on in this video then are traffic and conversions. Now the reason I'm not going to mention engagement is purely because at the end of the day, Facebook is a social media platform, so as long as you put a good product in front of the right audience, then you're going to get engagement. Like, there's no two ways about it. If somebody likes your post, then they're going to engage with it regardless of whether you choose engagement or not. So unless you're trying to build up engagement really, really quickly, then it's not something that you guys need to focus on or even consider using. So like I mentioned then, traffic and conversions. Now there's a couple of things I want to show you guys and make you aware of that you might not know already, especially if you're a beginner with Facebook. And keep in mind, and this isn't me saying it, this is actually Facebook themselves, so definitely something to take note on. And you'll see it's on Facebook's actual business website as well. So I've highlighted the text then just to show you guys, point your attention to. Keep in mind that we recommend getting about 50 optimization events within your conversion window per week. So What does this mean then? It means that if you're going after purchases, for instance, then if you're not getting at least 50 of those within a week, then your ad sets aren't going to be delivering optimally. Another thing to mention as well, that ad sets optimize on an ad set level. So if you duplicate an ad set, then essentially there's going to be no data for that ad set, and you're going to have to build up that data, so those 50 optimization events, before it starts delivering optimally. And this has to be within your conversion window as well. So as we go into the ad creation, I'll show you guys, but you can choose basically 1 day post click or 7-day click and view. If you choose that 1 day post click conversion window and somebody then comes back, say 2 days later, and makes that purchase, then that's not counted towards that 50, because it doesn't happen within that 1 day click window, if that makes sense. I'll talk more about it later in the video, but just for your information, I want you guys to consider this as we go through the video. Another thing I want to draw your attention to is that if there were less than 500 pixel events on your website in the last month, you should build up data and an online customer base before you start using conversion optimization. So before you go after purchases or view content, whatever it is, then basically what Facebook is saying is build up a customer data, build up a base of customers, and build up those pixel events on your website as well. So what I recommend doing this, going back to our marketing objectives, is starting with traffic, because essentially what this is going to do is get as many people onto your website as quick as possible. And as that number starts to build up, Facebook will start to recognize the kind of people who are interested in you and your products, and then ultimately that's going to fare better for you when you do make the move over to website conversions. So all that being said, then let's get into the ad set level. Apologies if I'm going into too much detail or I'm kind of boring you, but this is really important. Like I said, the more you understand, then the better you'll be able to solve problems, and the better you'll become at creating ads, essentially. So most people are going to be going for conversion, so let's choose this as an option. And then Facebook gives you this little drop down here, which essentially lets us choose a campaign name. And what I always recommend doing is just putting your product name in here. So let's say we were going to sell a bike light. We will put that in here. We don't want to split test because we're beginners and we want to focus on one single thing at a time. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves. We don't want to take on too much, because we want to keep track of what our results are, what the numbers are, to build our understanding. If there's too much going on and too quickly, then we're not going to absorb it all, and we're going to essentially be spending money, wasting money, because we want to make sure that when we spend money on Facebook, we learn exactly what that money is doing, because that way, if we waste £10 on ads, that's fine. We've learned our lesson and we won't waste the next £10, if that makes sense. Budget optimization, then what essentially this does is tells Facebook to optimize our budget across different ad sets within the campaign. So again, as a beginner, we don't want to do this. We want to be fully in control to make sure that what we're doing is what's working, not Facebook. When things start to build, once we have a good understanding and we're making a bit of money, then by all means kind of move a bit more across to autopilot and start using features like this. But for now, we want to be in control of what we're doing. So just go ahead, click continue, and this is going to take us into our ad set screen, which is essentially where we choose the tagged in options. So once this is all loaded up, then I can start taking you through it. There's create multiple new ad sets. If you're going to be split testing ad sets, that's the option for you. I've done a video on that, but again, this video is for beginners, so we're not going to take notice of that now. We're going to create one ad set at a time. We can sort of switch to quick creation, which again, Facebook recommends certain things, but like I mentioned earlier, we want to be fully in control of what we're doing. So we've got the ad set name then. I recommend leaving that as is, and we'll come back to that later on, because what you want to do is you want to make sure that you call your ad set essentially what the tagged in options are that you choose, because when you get to the point where you've got, say, 20 ad sets within a campaign, you don't want to have to open up each ad set individually to see what it's doing. So you want to name it essentially what the tagged in options are. And we don't know what the tagged in options are going to be just yet, so we'll leave that blank. We'll go through this and then come back and name it at the end. Now, moving on to conversions, and this is essentially what you choose, what kind of conversion to go after. So if you're going after purchase, just leave it as the purchase conversion. Now, as you'll notice, it says dog purchase conversion in there. That's because I've created a custom conversion for, I'm going off topic here, but if you're in a general store and you want to sell multiple niches within that store, then essentially you want different custom conversions per niche to make sure that the data doesn't get skewed. But again, going off completely off topic, that's a completely different video. choose whatever you want to go after. If you want it to be a purchase, if it wants to be add to cart, then just make sure that selection is in there. Again, we're going for product sales on our store, so we can leave app and messenger off. Dynamic creative wise is a bit more advanced. There's things you can automatically generate and optimize, or it essentially hands over a bit more control over to Facebook. Again, if you want to move kind of more into the autopilot, but like I said, we want to make sure that we're sticking to the very basics, so we understand a core, we kind of grasp a core understanding of Facebook ads, and then once we kind of establish a base, then we can branch out into all these different options. But for now, nothing to take notice of. So one thing to go through actually is on the right hand side, as we change the different tags and options, then Facebook is essentially going to update these for us as well. So we have our overall audience size, which at the moment is 44 million, which is absolutely huge. We have these recommendations from Facebook themselves, and then we have the estimated daily results, which is the reach. And essentially, Facebook is guessing how many conversions we're going to get. So moving down, we have the ability to create an offer, and what this does is it will advertise the fact that a product is on offer, so you can create a discount code, whatever it is, and you can set a timer to that as well, and people can save that offer. So essentially, it saves it to their profile, and when the offer, if they haven't taken advantage of that offer, once it comes to an end, they'll get reminders about it. So it kind of encourages people to make sure that they take advantage of it and come back and purchase your product. Personally then, I don't use offers, as it's just another thing to keep track of, but if that's something you want to do, then by all means experiment with it and see how you get on. So moving into kind of like the most important part of creating an ad set, which is the audience, which is essentially the tags in section. Now, I could do a whole video just on this section alone and how to pick interests and what age, what gender, what countries you should be tagged in. So if that is the kind of video you want to see, then just make sure you let me down below in the video section, in the comment section, not in the video section. So custom audiences then, as you start building up traffic and actions on your website, you can create custom audiences. So you can create a list of people who have viewed a certain web page or spent over £10 or added to cart. And once you create that custom audience, once you get 100 people in that audience for a specific country, you can then go ahead and create lookalike audiences. And essentially, the best strategy you can implement is to build up those lists as quick as possible and start creating lookalike audiences, because when Facebook goes out there, unless it's got the past data on who is interested in your product, then it's just going to show it to pretty much anyone. So the quicker we can get to the point where we're basing on people who have already shown an interest in our product and creating lookalike audiences based on those people, then we've got a better chance of putting our product and our ad in front of those people who have an interest, and therefore we're going to have a higher conversion rate, if that makes sense. So that's that box there. Moving on to locations, this is all of these few bits here are pretty self-explanatory. You can choose locations, you can choose everyone who is currently in that location, people who were recently in that location, and people traveling in that location. Me, typically, I tend to leave it as people who live in this location. That way I can make sure that I know what country I'm going to be shipping to, for example. Location-wise then, I recommend sticking to the 4 biggest English-speaking countries, which is the UK, Australia, America, and Canada. Use those as kind of like your 4 base countries that you want to target, and please don't just choose worldwide and then exclude certain countries, because there's so many countries out there that you probably don't even realize that Facebook advertised to. And I was speaking to somebody on a consultation call recently, and they implemented this strategy, and they ended up spending hundreds of pounds advertising to this particular country that they were getting loads of engagements and loads of page views, but nobody was buying, and probably because the site wasn't optimized in that certain currency, or just because there's certain audiences which are just really bad basically for being good at engagements but not actually buying. So please make sure you're specific when it comes to your targeting, and make sure you choose the countries. Age ranges, then it actually goes lower than 18, you can go as low as 13. And then it's just 65 plus, you can't go any higher than that. Gender, again, just select the gender you want to choose. Now, if you're going into a niche where you're not quite sure who your ideal customer is, then I would recommend, if you've literally got no clue, then choose quite a broad age, go for both genders, let it run for a few days, and see where the data is coming from. So if it's the majority women, then obviously there's no point spending money on men if they're not buying. Put more and more budget into the women, for example. Languages wise, then, if you want to say go into a specific language, if you're not English watching this and you want to and you're creating a Shopify store then in say French, then you can make sure you target people who speak French. Moving on to then probably the most important box on this screen, which is the detailed targeting. So this is where we're going to choose basically, well, as it says there in the box, the demographics, interests, or behaviors of who we want to target, who we want to show our ad to. So a couple of things to mention here. Number one, we want to be specific, and as we add interest to this, so just for example, then if I put in there dogs, select that, then just to see, I'll just untick this as well, just to show you what Facebook does on the right. So as you can see, it changes the reach and the potential reach. And the second thing about this box as well is that, so for example, then dogs, for anybody to be included in that audience, then they have to like a page that is related to dogs. So even though they might not like a dog, if they've liked a photo, for instance, or a page that's posted a photo about dogs, then they're going to be included in this interest. So what that means is that when it comes to choosing interests, then you want to use a tool called Audience Insights, which you can find if you just click up here on the top left. It's under Plan Audience Insights. I've done a few videos featuring it, and you want to use that to find interests that only buyers are going to be part of. So for example, then in the dog niche, then magazines is a great one, because people who subscribe to dog magazines and are already spending money in the dog niche getting magazines about dogs, the chances are they own a dog, right? There's not many people that are going to be subscribed to dog magazines if they don't own a dog. It'd just be pretty crazy. So kind of think along those lines. I don't want to go into too much detail, that's not the point of the video. I want to try and explain what these things do, but just try and think of interests that only buyers will be part of. So as you saw me do earlier, I untick this, and I always recommend doing this at the very beginning because, in fact, let's put an interest in here just to show you guys again. Another thing to mention with this box as well, I mentioned it, I didn't really go into too much detail on this, but you can, if you click suggestion, if you already put an interest in there and then click suggestions, it's going to give you interests related to that initial interest. And then you can also click on browse as well. So there's different demographics. You can choose kind of like what qualifications somebody has, life events, parents relation, where you can see the options it gives you there, behaviors. So feel free to have a look through those. Make sure you get to grips with what kind of options Facebook gives you, because ultimately that's going to give you a better idea of how you target people and who you want to target. Anyway, so moving on to this box here, expand interest when it may increase conversions at a lower cost per conversion. So what this does then is it tells Facebook, if this is ticked, it tells Facebook then that if you think you can go and find people that are going to convert at a lower cost, then by all means go and find those people. Now that might sound like a good thing, and if you're a bit more advanced and you want to move more kind of to autopilot, then it is, but you need the past data before you use this option, because if you have no past data, then Facebook's just going to go out and show your ad to just absolutely anyone that they think might convert. So unless you have that past data, Facebook isn't going to do that job very effectively. And to illustrate this, as you can see, the potential reach is 44 million with it ticked. If I untick it, it goes down to 15 million. So there's nearly an extra 30 million people added to that audience, which is just an absolutely massive, massive, massive amount of people. And unless Facebook has the past data, then there's no way they're going to be able to pick out the people that are going to be interested in your product within that 30 million extra people, if that makes sense. So if you're still watching up to here then guys, then I just want to say a massive thank you. I really do appreciate the people who truly support the channel and watch these videos all the way through. If you've got any questions at all, I get back to every single comment and every single message as well. So reach out on the social media. All the links are in the video description. I'll leave a comment down below. And that being said, if you are enjoying the video, please do leave a like as well. So moving on to the next couple of points, we have exclude people, which is basically we can exclude certain interests, basically the same options, and we can narrow an audience as well. And what that does then, if I just X this off to show it properly, is to narrow audience then, as it says and explains there, and must also match at least one of the following. So to give you an example then, so dogs as a whole is obviously quite broad, but if we were to put in there, let's say browse, let's go for demographics, relationship, relationship status, and let's go for engaged. So what this is going to do then is it's only going to target people who have liked pages related to dogs, and they must also be engaged as well. So you can narrow down and focus on a really specific audience, and this is the key. Then this is the reason why Facebook is so powerful, because you just don't get these tags and options with any other platform. So moving into connections then, if you're a beginner, then just take no notice of this, because essentially what it does, as it says there, you can reach people who have a specific kind of connection with you or your brand, or whether it's your page, and as it says there, app or event. You can save an audience as well. So if, for example, you run this for a few days and it's really profitable, then you can come back, save this audience, and it goes into your audience section. So again, click on the top left, and as you can see in the assets, it says audiences there, or save it to that section there, which means you can basically just add it to another ad set and essentially target the same people with a different product or whatever it is. Moving into the placement section then, which is also a really important feature for Facebook, because we want to make sure that we're getting as much attention on our ads, and people aren't just kind of skipping over them and taking no notice of them. So essentially we do this by choosing where we want our ads to be. If you're a beginner and if you're watching this video, then you probably are, in which case you want to make sure you hit this edit placements button, because just to illustrate, these are all the different places that Facebook have control of and where they can show your ad. So for instance then, if we look at the Facebook options, there's the right hand column and it shows you where it is. Now I don't know about you guys, but when I'm on Facebook, I rarely notice what's actually in this column. So if this is a new product that we're going out and advertising, then it's not going to give us like genuine feedback. It's not actually going to tell us whether people are interested in this product, because the amount of people that will just skip over it, it's just not going to give us the best chance possible of actually testing that product. So what I tend to do then, if it's a new product, then I untick absolutely every single one. So I get rid of messengers, I get rid of audience network, which is basically third-party space on different websites or apps. I get rid of Instagram. Unless you want to test on Instagram, then by all means, just make sure you choose the feed. I get rid of all of these then. Right column. Now, I've spoken about if this is the initial ad, so like the first ad that you're putting out there for a new product, then this is what you want to do. But if you're retargeting them, for example, which basically means somebody's already shown an interest and you want to retarget them, by all means experiment with these different places, because if they've already seen it once, then even if it's just a small image in a corner and they've seen your brand and your logo, then chances are it'll grasp their attention again. So when I'm testing the product, then to cut a long story short, I always just use Facebook newsfeed. That way, whether they're on a desktop or on a mobile, it's going to come up in smack bang in the middle of the screen, big and bold, and they will see your ad. And that is all you need. You just need to get as many eyes on as possible, as much attention on it, because then you're going to get a good understanding of whether your audience is reacting well or not to it. And that's pretty much it for placements. As you can see on the right, again, it's adjusted our potential reach and audience size. Now, this is still a bit high in my opinion. When I'm doing a new niche, definitely for a new niche as well, where there's no past data, then I try and get this potential reach under 100,000 or kind of around the 100,000 mark, just because 100,000 people is like a really big amount of people. Trying to pick the purchasers out of that massive audience, it's still going to be quite difficult. So pretty much the smaller you can get it, the better, just until you start building up that traffic, those add to carts, those purchases, and you can then go ahead and start building up those lookalike audiences. So that being said, then let's move down the page. Now, as you can see then, Facebook has left us two messages here because of the different targeting options we've selected. And what it's saying then is removing Instagram and audience network as placements may result, and the keyword there is may. Now, I've done extensive testing myself, and I always find that the Facebook newsfeed converts the best. Yes, it is a bit more expensive, but you just get the best results in my opinion. At the end of the day, it's your business and the choice is yours. If you want to go and experiment with different things, then by all means do so. But I'm just giving you my opinion and where I would use certain placements and what I'd use them for. Moving on, then you can target people with specific mobile devices and operating systems. So if I just open this up, then you can choose iOS, Android, and this is really good then for selling things like phone cases. If you're selling an iPhone phone case, for example, then you only want to target people who are using the iOS device for obvious reasons. Moving down, well, just to mention this tick box then, only when connected to Wi-Fi. So I tend to ignore that, to be honest, because especially in the UK, you can pretty much get 3G or 4G anywhere in the country, and people have no problem making a purchase over 3G or 4G. So, again, depending on what your product is and what your niche is, you may want to leave that as ticked. But me personally, I never ever use it, to be honest. So, moving on down then, moving swiftly on, this video is going to be crazy long. Not quite sure how long I've been recording for, but anyway, budget and schedule. So, fairly self-explanatory then. This is pretty much where we just edit how much we want to spend. We can do it by daily, we can set a lifetime budget. And the biggest advantage then to setting a lifetime budget, just to show you guys, if you have a look at this ad schedule in here, you can see it's blanked out, so we can't run ads on a schedule. But if we change this to a lifetime budget, we can leave it as 350, whatever. We can choose a start date, end date. Let's just put tomorrow, for instance. And there's another reason why I like to do this. If you've seen some of my past results, they're called the With Proof video series. A lot of my ad sets are on lifetime budgets, just purely because now there's no proof or science, or Facebook haven't said this themselves, but if I was Facebook and somebody was saying to me, I want to spend £10 per day, and then there was someone saying I've got a lifetime budget of £1,000, then if it was me, then personally I would, the person with £1,000 lifetime budget, they have more intent, or they show more intent to spend more, so I'd be more willing to give them the better results. Now, like I said, Facebook haven't mentioned this. This is completely my opinion, but to me, it just makes sense. At the end of the day, Facebook want the people who are going to spend the most money with them, so why not give the results to those people who show that intent? But the number one biggest reason then to why you should use a lifetime budget, or why you should migrate your winning ad sets to a lifetime budget, is for this reason here. So as you can see now, we now have the ability to run ads on a schedule. So if we click this button, we literally have all 7 days of the week, and we can choose what hours to run our ads. So as you've ran ads for a few days, you'll soon see that, or typically then, at least the niches that I've spent money in, then the most popular times are usually kind of like from 6, if I just get rid of all of these, then it's usually from about 6 to 9 a.m., 6 to 9 a.m., then from about 1 p.m. up until 3 p.m., and then sort of from 6 p.m. onwards, and they're typically where I tend to see the best results. A couple of other things to mention in the conversion window, which is very important. I touched on this briefly earlier on in the video, and basically it goes back to this whole point of needing, which one was it? I think it was this one. Needing 50 conversions within a week in order for your ad sets to basically deliver optimally. Facebook needs at least 50 every single week to build up that data and essentially know who to show your ads to. And it goes on to mention the different conversion window as well, which is where this actually comes into play. So as you can see, you have 1 day click, 7 day click, and all that means then is that Facebook will look at the data according to what you select here. So if you click 1 day click, then as soon as somebody clicks on your ad, they have 24 hours to perform the objective that you've chosen. So we're going after purchases. So if they perform it within that 24 hours, then great, it counts towards those 50 conversions. But if they do it, say, even just an hour outside of that time range, then they're not going to be counted, in which case we're still on 0 conversions for the week, if that makes sense. So you can do it by click, or you can do click or view. That being said, then we have the bid strategy options. We can have the lowest cost, which obviously is what we want to do. We want to get purchases for as cheap as possible, or we can choose a target cost, in which case we can select an amount, and we can basically tell Facebook to basically try and find purchases in and around this sort of price. Now, again, this is definitely something you should experiment with. I've not spoken about this I don't think in any of my past videos, but definitely something that will be, because not many people talk about this, and I've actually seen really, really good results using a target cost method. So that being said, I think that pretty much just covers the whole ad set. There's nothing more to mention. You can obviously change the time zone. I would always keep it as the viewer's time zone. And then if we scroll to the top, at the beginning, I said that we're going to name our ad set according to what the tagging is. So what I tend to do then, the basic kind of structure I use is I pretty much just work from top to bottom and just enter in the details here. So we're going after purchase, and then I use this like double line just to kind of separate things so it's easy to see the differences. There's no custom audiences. We're going for UK 18 to 65. UK 18 to 65 plus. Where are we? We're going for male and female. And then we're going for dogs and engaged. Dogs plus engaged. And then we're going for newsfeed only. And then budget-wise, I don't put the budget in there just purely because you can, when you look at the results of your Facebook ads, you can break it down. It does actually show you what the budget of that particular ad set is. There's no need to put it in here. So we want NFO for newsfeed only. And then that pretty much wraps it up. That is how you create an ad set. They're all the different options you have available to you. And then once you're happy with those, then again, just go ahead and click continue. And this is going to take us, as you can see, we've now moved down into the ad box. If I just click over here on the left, we've now moved on to the actual ad creation, the ad copy. So again, starting from the top, then we have our ad name. Unless you know exactly what you're going to be creating here, then again, leave it as is. We'll come back and edit that to match the ads. Again, if we're going to be running, say, 100 different ads across our Facebook account, it'd be nice to know exactly what each ad is, just by looking at it on the offset without actually having to go into it. So two options then, create an ad from scratch, or we can use an existing post. Now, there's a good argument for using existing posts, and I always do it when going into a new niche, because I will come up, once I've found an ad copy that really, really works, then I will always I'll pretty much put every ad set on that ad copy, just because everybody's going to be going to the same post, for example, which means every time somebody interacts and engages with it, then it's always going to be on the same post. So you're just going to build up the engagement a lot quicker, which is obviously a good thing, because if somebody sees an ad that has only one like and one comment versus an ad for the exact same thing, but it has, say, 1,000 comments, 1,000 shares, and 2,000 likes, then obviously the one with the more likes has more social proof, and therefore somebody's more likely to trust you and the actual ad. Moving on then, the next thing that we do is select the page that we want to run the ad from. So when you see the ad, obviously we want it to be the profile picture and the Facebook page name that matches the Shopify store. So if you click on that arrow, I'm not going to do it just because it will show you guys absolutely every single Facebook page I've got. But just click on there, make sure you select the right one if you've got multiple. And if you haven't yet created one, make sure you do. Just click the plus sign, create a page, call it the exact same name as your Shopify store. Obviously, you want everything to be uniform. If you want to advertise it on Facebook, you can run it on Facebook, so you can add an Instagram placement. But at the end of the day, it's completely up to you now. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's not the point of this video, but there is a strong argument of whether you should be on Instagram, whether you should be on Facebook, and it does come down to the niche ultimately. So for example, I find that the niches that work better on Instagram tend to be the more visual and kind of fashionable niches, because it just, it kind of lends itself to that type of marketing. It's very visual, and Instagram's got a younger audience too, and those sorts of niches like the fitness niche or fashion niche, if you're trying to sell clothing, that tends to be where the audience that's going to more likely resonate with your kind of products will be on Instagram. But anyway, I don't want to go into too much detail. Like I said, it's not the purpose of this video. But if you do have any questions at all, it doesn't have to be related to the video, anything at all, please do feel free to leave a comment down below. So moving on to the first kind of main section, which is format, which is where we pretty much select how we want our ad to look. So do we want it to be a carousel ad, which is basically where we can have multiple images or videos and people can scroll across and look at different ones. So if you're selling, for instance, charm bracelets, and this can be a good option. I've done a video on it in the past. I've had really good results with carousel ads because people can scroll through the images and essentially see what charms you have, and then you've got a better chance of them actually seeing a charm they like and clicking on your ad. At the end of the day, the ultimate goal of your ad is to get somebody to stop and actually click on it, click on your link and go to your Shopify store. So carousel ads then, they're great if you're selling a product with multiple variations. You can just have a single image, self-explanatory. I find that if you're selling a product where it kind of self-explains what it is and what it does, and you might want to try and model the product. So for instance, if you're trying to sell like a really nice watch, then you could have a model in a suit with showing the watch in case. It doesn't have to be a video, if that makes sense. So that's where you would use single image. Moving on to single video. Now this, to be honest with you guys, this tends to be what I use. If I can, I always create a video around a particular product to just find the engagement rates and the actual time people, like when somebody's scrolling through their newsfeed, if the video starts playing, they're just more likely to, even if they only give it those 2 seconds just to see what it is, that's all you need to do. That's enough time to capture somebody's attention and show them what your product is. And if you can do that, then you've got a better chance of them actually clicking on your ad and having a look at your product. You can have a slideshow. Again, it kind of self-explains what these are. So you can create a looping video ad with up to 10 different images. I haven't actually experimented with these, to be honest with you guys, that much. I tend to stick to just these first 3. And then you have a collection as well. Now, one thing to mention, which I haven't said yet, is with each of these ad types then, as you can see below here, you get a checkbox, which is to add an instant experience. And basically what that does is when somebody interacts with your ad, so they click on it or go to add a comment, then it opens up into a full screen experience on the mobile device, which basically means you can kind of get more on the page and use more images or a bigger video, just to make them kind of more fully immersed in your ad and essentially be more involved and show more of an interest, if that makes sense. Like if they're seeing, plus it avoids them getting distracted by something else on the page. So if you imagine on your phone and the whole screen is taken up by this ad and this video and the text and whatever it is, then you've just got a better chance of somebody clicking on your link and again going to your Shopify store, which is the ultimate goal. So collection ads is self-explanatory. It says exactly what it is there. You can feature a whole collection of products rather than just one. It comes as standard with this instant experience as well. It's a new feature by Facebook. I haven't seen many people do much on this, so definitely something I'll be looking at in 2019. What I tend to find as well is that when Facebook come out with these new features, they always want people to use them. So you tend to always see good results with them for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're new, so not a lot of people are going to be using them. And if you can use something that not a lot of people are using, then obviously you've got a better chance because there's less competition. So moving down then, in fact, what I'll do is I'll choose the single video just because this is probably going to be the one that is going to apply to most of you guys watching now. So when it comes to doing a video ad then, Facebook actually gives you all the recommended recommendations along this right hand side. So there's not a lot more I can really add to this. So recommended length up to 15 seconds. Now, depending on what the product is, you might want to be a lot more than that. It might want to be a lot less, but all I'm going to say is don't drag it out. Like within those first 10 to 15 seconds, make sure people can clearly see what your product is, how it's used, and how people use it. Or the best thing, in fact, the best way to market any product is to show somebody using your product and having a good time while they use it. If you can do that, you're going to capture so much more attention, and your conversion rates, your click-through rates, everything is just going to be a lot higher. So moving on, again, it gives you all the recommended numbers that you should be working against. Not a lot I can say on that. One thing, and again, that I will mention is that if you're not quite sure how to create video ads, I have done videos on that on my YouTube channel, so make sure you just go search for those. I am coming out with a new one as well because the previous one I recorded didn't quite come out as well as I wanted to. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you want to see that video, make sure you do to make sure you don't miss it. So moving on to the actual kind of like text side of your ad, I'll see if it lets me add it even though we haven't uploaded the video. It will, which is great. So select the link type for your ad. We want website because we're taking it to our Shopify store. Now text wise, this is what's going to come up at the top of your ad. So this, you want to keep this short, to the point, let people know exactly what you're doing and why they should buy this product. So let's say, for instance, we're advertising an LED dog collar. So we could say, do you walk your dog in the dark? Question. If they read that question, it's going to make them actually stop and think. And if we can get them to think and start interacting with our ad, then that's going to be a good thing. Now it's not coming up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this to single image, upload just a basic image just so you guys can see how essentially this all works. So I've just uploaded this free stock image and I've just clicked on free stock images, one that Facebook provides. If you were to upload a video, then obviously rather it be this image, then it would just be your video in this place anyway. So moving on to text then, do you walk your dog in the dark? Then it could be something along the lines of, keep your dog safe from traffic with this LED dog color. And then just something as simple as get yours here. You can have a little arrow and then just put your URL in there. What I recommend is if you Google URL shortener, just make sure you make it short. Just that way it's not going to take up say 2-3 lines of this box. It's just going to be a nice short sharp URL. It's going to look clean and tidy. So anyone scrolling through this, then the first thing they see is a question which makes them want to read it. They're going to stop and actually think about whether they walk their dog in the dark. As long as you're advertising at the right time, they're going to be like, hang on a sec, yeah, I am. I don't get home from work till 6 p.m. at night. It's already dark then, I've got no other option too. So I want to keep my dog safe, so I'm going to keep him safe from traffic and this LED dog color. Website URL then, again, you want to make sure you put your actual product page URL, not the home page, take them straight to the product page. We want to make it as quick and simple as possible for somebody to buy this product. We want to basically make them do it in as little clicks as possible. We live in a world where there's so many different distractions, whether it's other apps on their phone, people ringing them, people texting them, WhatsApp, things going on in and around the house. There might be at work, whatever it is. So we just want to make it as quick and easy as possible for somebody to make a purchase. So put your product page URL in there, and then headline wise, this is this section here. In fact, I'll just change it to show you guys. So this could be some sort of enticement then to get them to actually click on it. So it could be something just as simple as PayPal welcome. Now find putting this in your ads works really well, because especially if you're a new company that not many people have heard of, if at all anyone, then by advertising the fact that you accept PayPal, it shows that you're a legit business and people will feel safe shopping with you, because they know 100% that if you are a dodgy company, which I hope you're not, then they'll be able to claim their money back. Then there's a couple of other things to mention as well. Number one, the call to action button, so obviously to make this relevant to you and your business, whatever product you're trying to sell. So if you're trying to get somebody to sign up, then it could be a sign up button. If you're selling a physical product, then it's obviously shop now. A couple of other things, then if you just click on this show advanced options, it's going to give us a couple of more options that we can essentially edit. So we can edit the display link, and we can also edit the newsfeed link description. So if we just have a look here under PayPal welcome, newsfeed link description, again, I like to put some sort of enticement in there to encourage people to click on our ad. So it could be something like over 10 plus colors available. And what that does then is it creates excitement and questions within your customer's mind. So say we've got a video ad of a red color, advertising the fact we've got more colors available might make them think, oh, I wonder what other colors they've got. Let's click on that ad and see. And then once they're on your product page, that is when it becomes the job of your store and your product page to actually convince them to add it to cart and buy your product. So that being said, then that is essentially the whole process from start to finish. Absolutely every box, variation, option, whatever it is. If you're still watching, then I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed the video, then please do leave a like. Please do leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this. Do I speak too quickly? Am I not going fast enough? Do I go into the right amount of detail? The more feedback you can give me, then the better I can make these videos. And that being said, if you've got any ideas for videos, any questions, whatever it is, feel free to get in touch. All my social media links are in the description. And that being said then, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.